Can you give us a little bit of history as to how the Swiss guards came to
Absolutely.
protect the Pope?
Yes. So the Swiss guards arrived at the beginning of the 16th century. To be precise, on January 22nd, 1506. Why? Well, if you are an historian or if you love beauty and art, well, that's the time where they were building St. Peter, where Michelangelo, Raffaello, people know this name, right? They were engaged by the Pope to paint the Sistine Chapel. Maderno, Bernini were the architect, okay? So the Pope at that time was Julius II. But at that time in Germany, there was a lot of mess going around. The Pope was concerned about the Landsknecht, the barbarian, that they had said, we are going to leave Germany, we're going to go down and we're going to take possessions of the wealth of the church and blah, blah, blah. And he didn't have anybody to protect him. He didn't have a army, he didn't have a bodyguard. Who was kind of in charge, and I do the same, to protect him, were the Italians. And I love the Italians, but the Pope felt, okay, I gotta get a little serious here, okay? And so there was a Swiss priest in 1505 that worked at the Vatican, and so he confided to the Holy Father at that time that in Switzerland, a lot of the men were mercenaries, and they were extremely faithful and loyal, strong, great fighter, but they needed to be paid in order for them to leave Switzerland and go and protect anybody that was willing to pay and in need of protection. And as a matter of fact, some Swiss were already in Italy, below Rome, in the Naples area, in the Bourbon family, protecting people down there. And so the Holy Father thought, you know what? I think it's money good spent to engage somebody. And so he cut a deal, and 150 men left Switzerland and walked all the way down along the Via Francigena, which basically is along the Tirreno Sea, coming down, if people are listening, coming down from Firenze, you come down from that area, okay? And on January 22nd, 1506, Pope Julius II welcomed them, and the guards, they've been there since then. Every pope renewed them, keeps them, and Pope Leo did the same. Every pope could say, I don't want the Swiss anymore, I want the Belgium. Never happened. And so the Swiss Guard are the oldest continued active army in the world.
Have they ever had to actually go to war on behalf of the Pope?
They did not go into war, but in 15...
Or battle,
yes. So in 1527, sack of Rome, the Landsknecht, they invade Rome, and there was 147 guards, including the commander, that died to protect the Pope that had changed at that time and was Clement VII. And Clement VII, was able to escape. He went into Castel Sant'Angelo, and then from there he went to France, right? So they never really engaged in a battle, but they gave their life to protect the life of the Holy Father. Every Wednesday, popes do what is called the general audience. So, and during the winter, they do that on the left side of the Basilica in the Aula Paolo VI, that big hallway, about 10,000 people. And when spring and summer come, they do them on the square, right? So almost 40,000 people. So this story happened in the winter. And so I was at the gate allowing people to come in. And for people that are listening to us, if they've been to an audience, they know that you have to have a ticket, right? And the ticket is just a color that basically puts you in a specific area, either in the hallway or in the square, right? So I am there, I'm looking at all the people and, whatever. And all of a sudden, this lady comes and she has something in her hands. And next to her, there was a girl, right? Probably 10, 11 years old. And she says, sorry, my daughter did this drawing. Would it be possible to give it to His Holiness? That's normal questions, right? People do that all the time to guards. Can you give this to the Holy Father? Never cash. I'm joking, but there was a drawing, okay? And so I said, sure. And so I take the drawing, and I don't talk to the girl, I talk to the mom, they move away, and I put the drawing in my pocket. My duty that day at a certain point was to leave that position and to go behind the building where the Holy Father was arriving with the car for entering the hall and start the audience, right? So I go around, I'm now there, I wait, the Holy Father comes, I go in attention, he comes out of the car, and he starts walking into the Aula Paolo VI, the hallway. I remembered about the drawing, right? And so his secretary, Monsignor Dziwic, today Cardinal Dziwic, stayed behind for a moment. And so I took it out of my pocket and I said to him, Monsignore, una bambina, a girl, gave this drawing to me for the Holy Father. And he took it, I don't even remember if he said thank you, but he just took it and put it, he carries the folders with all the speeches, he put it in everything. So my service ended there. Then I went back to the barracks. I didn't stay for the audience. And then I rested, and then I went to lunch because I had to start in the afternoon. While I was having lunch, the guards that stayed, during the audience until the Holy Father left, they were walking up the central aisle, and all of a sudden he stopped and he walked back. For security purpose, that's very dangerous because you never clear the back. You always clear the front. The back, I don't care what's in the back, right? We passed, right? So for the guards, that was a moment of, what is he doing? Where is he going? And they said that they were sharing that he went back almost 5 meters, so 15 feet, and he reached out with his hands to a little girl that was barely above the barrier with her face. And he blessed her mouth and her ear. And then he walked away. Well, we didn't know at that time, we learned later, that that was the girl that gave me the drawing, that her mom gave me the drawing, and that girl was mute and deaf. And when he blessed her mouth and her ears, she started talking and hearing.
So Pope John Paul II, now Saint John Paul II, performed the miracle while he was alive and Pope. That's like so beautiful.
Yes. How did he know about the girl, right? How?
It's God.
God. I think
It's
that,
Jesus.
We were, guards leader, we were talking about that, and we were saying, maybe there was a spotlight, on the girl.
God was like, here she is.
And he went back, and maybe all of that initiated with a little drawing given to me that I gave it to Dziwic. That was a tie, right? Like maybe a
full
tape.
circle, yeah.
Correct. And the first circle closed when he blessed.
That's beautiful.
So
I love that story.
I have gazillions of stories, but this is to prove that you are correct. He was already a saint on earth. I was in the kitchen a few times. And I met mothers there, right? And the story that I'm about to say happened exactly as a consequence of one of my infractions, okay? And when I arrived there and I present myself and I said, I'm here, I gotta give you 3 hours, sisters. And they told me to go and serve the food. And I said, I don't want it, can I be in the kitchen? I'll wash pot. And they said, okay. And so I went into the kitchen and to wash the pot. And they had, I don't know if you're familiar, but they had this big industrial sink, which is 3 holes, right? Because you wash in once, you rinse in the others, and then you sanitize, right? And so I was there, and all of a sudden, I was washing these huge pots, okay? With this, the little sponge, and I'm trying to clean, and it wasn't coming, right? And so I threw a temper tantrum, and I threw the pot into the sink, and the water with the soap came down, got my jeans, my shoes wet, and I said a bad word.
In front of the sisters?
Wait, I thought that I was alone.
Oh.
The problem is I was not, because next to me there was a sister that had arrived with a cart full of dirty dishes, and she was unloading them for me to clean and put into this dishwasher, right? Well, when I said the bad word, you know, and I pulled back, I noticed the sisters, and then when I turned, it was Mother. And Mother looks at me and she says in Italiano, but I'll say in English, "Wow, you sure sound like a sissy." And when she said that, I said to myself, "What?" And I wanted to, you know, as a guy, I wanted to talk back, but she left, right? And I spent few months thinking, next time I see Mother, I'm gonna tell her I'm not a sissy, I'm a man.